Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy. Welcome back to Watchlist Wednesday. Today we're going to be watching Dune, the first one. Dune Part 2 comes out this week, and I'm incredibly excited about it. A lot of the early reviews are calling it a masterpiece and one of the greatest movies of all time, but in order to go watch that on Friday or whatever, I'm going to have to go ahead and watch this one first because I've never seen it. And there's a couple of reasons for that. For one, I've heard a lot of people say this movie is incredibly boring. And I've also heard a lot of people just say that this movie is great. So I'm torn between, am I going to like this movie? Am I not going to like this movie? And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I don't even know what the Dune movies are. Like, they kind of feel like something like Star Wars, some kind of sci-fi movie like that, but I have no idea. So I'm going to be watching this. For anybody who's watching this and also hasn't seen it and wants to go watch it, it's on Netflix, but it's literally leaving Netflix in 2 days. So if you're watching this the day that this video is coming out, you can go watch it on Netflix, or if you're watching the day after this video came out, you can go watch it on Netflix. After that, I have no idea. But yeah, that being said, I'm going to go watch it, and then I'll be back to give you guys my honest reaction and review. So I'll see you guys in a bit. Alrighty, so, I don't know how I feel about that. There are definitely a lot of aspects of it that I like. I think that a lot of the action works relatively well for me. There's a big plot hole error. I don't know if it's a plot hole, but like there's just something about this that really bothers me that I'm just going to quickly address, and then we're going to dive into some of the positive stuff, and then I'm going to dive into what my big complaint about the movie is. So, first off, I want to talk about their like super advanced technology, right? Like obviously you look at their spaceships, they're giant cylinders. They look super like hyper realistic, like what people expect the future to look like and stuff like that. And I do think that they look relatively cool, but a lot of their technology works in ways that I feel like just doesn't make sense. For one, their helicopters with the little flappy wings, it looks cool. I don't think that would work at all in a real world scenario. And then another thing, this is the one that I don't understand. And so like my complaint isn't like, oh my god, this is unrealistic. My complaint is what's supposed to be happening here. Their armor that they use, right? They use like this weird like vibrational frequency thing. It's like light armor. It's not like an actual thing that exists. It kind of looks like virtual reality armor. I don't even know exactly what it is, but it lights up blue or whatever, and the whole thing is like if somebody tries to stab you, right, in certain places, it'll light up blue, and that means that they didn't actually hit you. But then if they hit you in a spot that's like vital and it'll actually kill you, it turns red. So like, is the whole point of the armor to make it where like people can only kill you if they stab you in vital spots? Because that's kind of what it seems like. But isn't that the opposite of what armor is supposed to do? Like if I get stabbed in the heart, usually there'd be like more padding there, because that's like what armor should do. It should protect your vital spots. But instead in this, it seems like if they hit a good spot, they're basically awarding the people who stabbed them in the vital spot by letting them actually stab them in the vital spot. But maybe that's just me missing something. But it was really weird. And like, don't get me wrong, visually it looked cool, and it was very interesting to kind of see like, oh, if this person just flashed red, that means that they're dead. And like, that's cool, right? Like it works. But at the same time, I feel like that's just kind of ridiculous. And it was kind of killing me, like the majority of the action sequences where we would watch like, oh, these people just died. It's like, it kind of felt like something you would expect in like a video game where you do one of those simulations where it's like you pick like a random group of characters versus a random group of characters, and then they just go at it for like a simulation type thing. And the way that you know the character dies is they light up red. And like, so for me, that just felt like really cheap and weird. But like, other than that, the armor looked cool. So I just wanted to know like what the point of that was. But I digress with that. That's like a very minor thing. I just could not help but focus on that the entire time there were fight sequences. But now one of the main things that I want to talk about, the cinematography looks good. The acting so far looks pretty good. There's like a couple of acting performances here and there, mostly Jason Momoa, that kind of feel out of place because everybody else is doing a really good job of being super serious and feeling kind of like otherworldly, whereas Jason Momoa feels like he's just a dude, and he plays just a dude in pretty much every movie he's in. But overall, I think that the acting is good. I think the cinematography is good. The CGI of the characters looks incredible. Our first couple of looks at the sandworms were incredible in this. And I like the way that they're trying to tell this story in a non-linear format, with dreams being a very, very important thing. And Timothée Chalamet's character has these dreams, which are glimpses into the future. I like the way that they're kind of doing these flash forwards, but something that's really interesting to me is a lot of the most interesting parts of this movie are the flash forwards, which are stuff that's going to happen in Dune Part 2. So, like, for the most part, I'm watching this movie and I'm like, oh, yeah, I really like that aspect. That's pretty cool. I like that. But it's something that hasn't happened yet and won't happen until Dune Part 2. And then a lot of the stuff, like Zendaya's character, she doesn't really get introduced until the very end of the movie. And then same with, like, pretty much that entire, like, group of people, the people who live in the deserts. And it's very interesting because it's like, I want to like these characters and I really want to like the world building that they're doing here, but we haven't seen enough of it yet. So some of my favorite parts of this movie are things that were underdeveloped in this movie that are just set up for the next movie. And another thing about this is this entire movie just feels like setup overall. On the CD or whatever, and on the disc or whatever, it's all just called Dune, Dune, Dune. But then when you watch the movie, it says like Dune Part 1, and you're like, oh, okay, this was a Part 1 of 2. But if I was watching this movie not knowing that it was a Part 1, I think I would absolutely hate everything about it because it's just exposition after exposition after exposition. And my main dilemma that I have with it, my main like critique that I want to give is it has no structure. It's just a story, that's a story, that's a story, that's a story, and pretty much the entirety of this movie feels like it's just Act 1. And there's no resolutions to anything that happens in the story. There's no, like, build up to, oh, there's going to be this big reveal. Usually there will be a midpoint where, like, oh, this thing happens, and now everything is changing, and it doesn't feel like this movie has any of that. It doesn't feel like this movie should be standing alone on its own as its own movie, because like I said, it doesn't end. It doesn't really have a clear beginning, middle, and end, and that really is off-putting to me. Okay, so to touch on that a little bit more, I think that the story is interesting. Like I said, I think I like the world building of this the most out of everything that they're giving us in this movie. We're introduced to the royal family, and it's Oscar Isaac, Rebecca Ferguson, Timothy Chalamet. And at first, whenever you think of like royal families, you kind of think like, oh, they're going to be pretentious. They're going to be people who, I don't want to say are unlikable, but a lot of times royal families in movies and TV shows, they're kind of like unlikable. And like I said, they're pretentious. They're typically like greedy people that are not people you would like. But in this, they do a really good job of showing that like they're very well informed, they're very smart, they're doing a good job of like understanding the people. Oscar Isaac's character really wants to go and learn more about the area that they're moving to in this. And I really like the fact that they're able to showcase that this royal family is very educated. They're very smart, they're very, they have a lot of wisdom, and I really like that about this movie. They do a good job of introducing the characters. Something that does kind of suck about this movie, because it is so fast-paced and it is just, here's this plot point, here's this plot point, here's this plot point, and it's keeping the movie going. Oscar Isaac's character is not in the movie as much as I really would have liked him to be, and then his death feels incredibly wasted, in my opinion, in this movie, because they don't have any moments where they really get a chance to like breathe for a second and actually like grieve over the loss of this character. And I think that in the trailers for Dune Part 2, they're showing that they're going to be doing that at least a little bit, which is going to be nice. But as of right now, it's really sad to kind of like just brush past something like that. That should be really emotional and impacting. And like us as the audience should be very sad because, oh, this family is being torn apart and almost all of the people just died, but we don't really get much of that in this. And I do think that that's kind of a waste. And then on top of that, there are a lot of action sequences and stuff like that where it's like, it's hard to really fully process what's going on, because it's like, there's this group of people in armor and here's this group of people in armor and that's it. And it's like, well, no, the leader is the the character that's played by Josh Brolin, and that's pretty much it. And it just feels really weird because we don't have a lot of time to actually get these personal connections with all the people who we are watching die. So overall, I think that the story is decent. I think that the action and everything, like, it looks great. It looks like a beautiful film. I'm very excited for Dune Part 2 because I think it's going to have more of a storyline that actually like makes sense, in my opinion. Because here's the thing, this story doesn't like not make sense, but because there's no resolutions to any of the problems that happen in this movie, it feels really weird. And we literally cut off like right at what I would assume was probably supposed to be in the midpoint, the part where Timothy Chalamet's character gets in a duel and he has his first kill or whatever. That's usually the midpoint, supposed to be like where this big character moment happens, and then the entire like world gets flipped on its head basically, and then they have to figure out who they are going forward and stuff like that. And it's very weird to me that this movie doesn't have a midpoint, and that feels like that's supposed to be the midpoint of the story. So going forward, everything else is going to be second act and third act. So I don't know. Overall, it's not terrible. It feels really long. It drags on a lot. There's a lot of moments in the first like 30 minutes or whatever that feels very, very slow. But that being said, it's good build-up. That's just all it is. So I couldn't enjoy it as much as I was hoping to. If I had to rate this movie on a typical 100 scale, I probably would give it about a 78. It's a B minus in my opinion. It's not terrible, but it's kind of like some of the earlier Star Wars movies for like the prequel. Like if you watch the prequel series of Star Wars or whatever, and you watch the first two movies, they both feel like just very, very slow movies, because it's just, here's this exposition, here's the stuff you're gonna need to know later, and then it has the big payoffs in the later movies, which retroactively makes them better. So this movie will probably be better after I watch Dune Part 2, but because I haven't yet, not a fan. But yeah, that being said, that was it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and checking it out. I love and appreciate you guys so much for watching. If you liked it, feel free to like and subscribe, and I will hopefully see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Bow, bow, bow. Back at it again, but that's a relevant flow. So smooth, they calling me Mr. Elegant. Like an elephant, I got a long nose. Like a president, I've got a few hoes. Swift with a stutter, I'm smooth like butter. Don't see it coming when I slip undercover. Like a big dog, but I don't bite. I'm still a big broad, I'd win that fight. Come match you and I knock out your lights.